Hey everybody, it's Tim Sackett, and welcome to another edition of SmashUps, the video podcast brought to you by the great folks over at Fistful of Talent. And of course, as always, our sponsor is SmashFly. You can check them out at smashfly.com. Recruitment marketing solutions, and we're going to be talking hourly hiring today, and they definitely have an hourly hiring solution for you, so make sure you check that out at smashfly.com. I'm going to bring in my guest. I'm super excited. Neil Morrison is the director, he's got a long title, Director of Strategy, Culture, Innovation at Penguin Random House of the UK. Neil, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's an amazing job title, isn't it? You would have thought I made it up.
I'm sure you probably did, right?
Totally.
Also, you can check Neil out. I get asked this a lot, Neil. People say, well, who do you read? What HR bloggers do you read? And it's always, Chris Dunn, because I love Chris's stuff. Lori Rudiman, love Lori's stuff. And then I read your stuff at Change. It's Change Effect, so it's change-effect, EFFECT.com. And Neil's one of the great writers. And he's not just HR, it's leadership. There's a lot of stuff in there. But one of the better writers in the world. So make sure you check his blog out, because I really love that.
That's very kind of you.
See, I like to butter the guest up as I bring him on.
Yeah, what's coming next? Is that...
So, Neil, I brought you on because I think we were going to talk about the state of hourly hiring. You and I have both worked for corporations that had tens of thousands of hourly workers. We had to hire tens of thousands of workers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of workers over our careers. And it seems like when I go and take a look at technology and everything that's written about our industry and talent acquisition, rarely do you ever hear of anything that's hourly. It's almost always tech hiring, white collar hiring, nursing, professional positions, and we just tend to forget about the hourly workforce altogether. So I want to talk about that, and I want to start with, because it seems like most organizations really just do a bad job at it. They forget about it. So why is that? What are they doing wrong with hourly hiring?
I think there's a real assumption that you can just get people, and there's a whole queue of the kind of great unwashed out there who are desperate to come and work for organizations. And when we talk about kind of talent, we go, oh, it's the war for talent. It's that really top kind of small percentage of highly skilled people. Mm-hmm. And there's this kind of assumption, like I say, that there's just open the door and there'll be queues of people just waiting to work on an hourly basis for you. But it strikes me that it's a real kind of we focus so much on that small percentage, but it's a real missed opportunity when in organizations that have large populations of hourly paid workers, they're often the first point of contact with customers, with clients, with whoever it is.
Yeah.
And yet, we're focused on the guy who sits in a dark room on the third floor, behind the server on the left, who does something magical. And that just feels a little bit strange, doesn't it? But maybe it's our kind of history and our slight arrogance of just assuming that you can put a poster saying jobs in the window and that's all you need to do and it's fine.
Well, and I don't know how it is in the UK. I'll let you update us, but I know in the US, like we're coming close again to these historic low unemployment rates, right? Where you can't even find hourly workers that don't have a job someplace else. And so, it's crazy to me because I think organizations sometimes struggle to fill those hourly roles more than they struggle to fill some of the professional roles. What's the environment in the UK right now?
Well, it's exactly the same. And of course, we've just done the most catastrophic thing that we could do by saying effectively, we're going to exit the European Union and we're not going to allow European workers to come in and do those hourly paid jobs. So this is a real issue for UK businesses at the moment, because if you go into Starbucks or if you go into Pret a Manger or if you go into kind of any retail or leisure business, you'll find a proportion of those will be Europeans from outside of the UK who are working there. Now, if that workforce goes away, God knows what people are going to do, because there are just not enough people that want to work hourly paid jobs in order to do all of those things. So it's a real challenge, and it's going to get harder. And therefore, recruiters are going to have to be much, much smarter, and businesses are really going to have to think about how they handle this issue, because otherwise, you just won't get your coffee in the morning, Tim.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And the moment that happens, we know that, the next step is revolution. So, yeah.
So how do you get an organization to change that mindset, that culture, that attitude towards hourly hiring? That it's a nuisance. But don't worry about it. Like they'll just keep showing up. And I mean, it seems like we have to get through that and change that culture. And I think there's this idea that we want these hourly employees to be super loyal to us, and yet we're showing them nothing of that on the other side.
Yeah. One of the things I loved that we used to do in my previous organization was everybody in the head office used to have to spend 3 days a year working in stores for a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, if you wanted to get people to really understand how valuable and important it was, the best way to do it was to get them to go and do the job for a day and realize how hard it was, the sorts of challenges, the range of issues that they're dealing with, and actually talk to the people who are doing it about their issues and challenges. Because I think, it's very easy to think, oh, they just stand in a shop, or they just carry trays.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go and do it, you realize actually the level of complexity. And the next piece to what you're saying is, if we believe that these guys are really valuable to the organization, then businesses need to show them some love. And that's not just about, a nice uniform. That's about really investing, because that hour, if you're doing 2, 3, 4 jobs in order to, pay the bills, in order to put meat on and food on the table, that employee engagement really does not mean a lot to you. What matters to you is the hourly rate, it's the benefits that you might get, it's the job security, it's the quality of management that you've got. It's all of those aspects are really, really important. And so it's a slightly different mindset that you need to put in place. And that's not to say that it's a dumbing down. It's just to say it's actually providing segments of the workforce with the things that are really important to them.
Mm-hmm. I love the aspect of when you said when you were at Home Retail Group, which is the company you were talking about, the former before Random House, where you kind of forced everybody to go. Not I say forced you, but you made everybody go.
Pretty much.
You made everybody go work. When I first got hired into Applebee's, my first 30 days, I was in a restaurant working every single position. Right, so I was washing dishes, I was cooking food, pouring the beer, waiting on tables, doing every aspect of what that was. And I was hired in at a director level. It was everybody across the company. It didn't matter if you were, hired in at a C-suite position, a VP position. You were going to go in there and get your hands dirty, because that was, and again, it was a leadership focus to say there's nothing more important than all those people that touch our customers every single day. But it's so often that it's a leadership team that they say it, but then they forget about it. And, they go, someone's like, oh, well, I'm an accountant. Why would I don't need to go work in our stores. I don't need to go work as a barista. And like, yeah, you actually do. You really do.
Yeah.
It'll help you be a better employee for this company.
Right. And, why are you there? If you're an accountant, you're there to count the money. Okay, fine. Where's the money coming from? It's coming from customers. Okay, who serves the customers? It's these guys, right? So if you want to count more money, then you've got to get better customer service, and that's about understanding what goes on. And we created this really high-end leadership program, and we were recruiting kind of graduates from Oxford and Cambridge and some of the top universities in the UK. And they were joining this program that was incredibly, kind of elite. And the first thing we did was we put them in the stores for 3 months over the Christmas period, and kind of went, right, before you get to sit at a desk, before you get to, make decisions, what you're going to do is go and stand there and serve people at a point in time when, they're all panicking, they don't know what to buy, they're running in, the things aren't in store, and you're going to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And every single one of them said to me afterwards, actually, that was the most important part of helping me be successful, because when I was making decisions later on, I knew the impact of those decisions, and I knew why they were important. And I think, that sort of thing really helps.
You need that frame of reference, right? Which is every decision I'm going to make, how does it impact that hourly worker that's in front of the customer every single day? And that it's huge. I can't agree with you more on that. Before we got on, you were sharing a story. You obviously have children. I have children. You have a son who's looking for a job during Christmas,
Yeah.
an hourly kind of temporary position for the holidays. I want to talk about tactical, right? Because I know a lot of people that are watching this are going to go, great, you guys are really high-level strategic. I can't change how my leadership team thinks. But I think we also have a ton of experience on the technical side of just going out and hiring massive amounts of people. Share the story a little bit about what your son had to go through to get an hourly job, because what's happening in the UK is exactly what's happening in the US as well.
Yes, so this was fascinating for me because I obviously, I look at technology and I look at ATSs and I look at recruitment systems from an entirely different lens. And all of a sudden I was sat with my son as he went to apply for a job over Christmas. Mm-hmm. And of course, being for Christmas, it's only 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks that he's actually going to have this job. And that's kind of okay. But he had to go through the same process as pretty much anyone else. So setting up a profile on the ATS, and then they were asking for him to upload his CV and then to fill out 4,000 fields that all went through, his nationality and his work experience and this, that, and the other. And he actually spent more time probably filling in these things than he would have done actually working if he'd been successful with the job. So, it was a real classic example of using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. They want people quickly, and yet they're going to make you go through all of this. And what was really curious then was, having done it, in loads of these, which are big brands, he got zero reply. And you're kind of like, right, so how many people apply for these jobs? Thousands. Your brand is now absolutely ruined. Mm-hmm. And there was one classic, I've got a wonderful exchange, which I screen captured with him. So he got a rejection in February for a Christmas job, right?
Somebody was going through the ATS, making sure all the I's were dotted, T's were crossed.
Right, closing down, right? And he's like, no shit, I got rejected in February, right?
Thanks.
And his quote to me was, who are these people? Are they cavemen?
Yeah.
Right. Now that's his perception of that brand.
Yeah, I think there's a touch of arrogance to the entire process of that, and where we go, oh, I don't want to have to deal with this, and so because of that, I'm going to put in filter after filter after filter after filter, and I'm going to make people jump through hoops, and then the people that make it out at the end, they might not be the best talent, but they were at least willing to jump through all my hoops, and so now I'm going to give them a shot. I'm going to do this, and to me that just seems like you've developed an arrogant process. Like you actually are telling these people, yeah, you know what, we're better than you. We don't really want you to come work here. I mean, we do, but first we need to prove to us that you want to come work here. And I'm thinking, when does that mindset turn around where you go, how easy are you making it to get somebody to apply? And say, hey, I want to come work for you, right? Like that should be like the number one thing, especially when we talk about hourly and massive hiring. Yeah, for the most part, like I'm not saying that you don't need skill, right? They're unskilled jobs for the most part. We're going to teach people what to do. Yeah. But it doesn't mean the person doesn't have skills and doesn't have value. But I have constantly corporate TA leaders come to me looking to hire salaried level workers, $50,000, $60,000 a year type jobs that'll go, Tim, all I need is someone that cares, that shows up, that can learn. I mean, and I'm thinking that's exactly what I want just for my hourly workers. And now they're saying this about actual salaried workers. Yeah. And so, we have to, tactically, you have to be able to get yourself in a position where you go, how am I making this easier for people to apply? And then how am I treating them like I want to be treated? Like, it's insane that we don't do this.
Well, and the more that, my simple process, my simple kind of philosophy on hiring is the more work you ask the candidate to do, the more love you need to give them in return, even if they're unsuccessful. Right. So if you're going to make them go through all these hoops, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But you've got to really go out of your way then to recognize that you've made them do it. Whereas if you're going to make them do it and then never talk to them again, I mean, that's just total arrogance, right?
I love that
So
equation though, that right? So if you're going to do this much, what are you willing to give on this other side? Because I mean, to me, that's like the perfect process that you want to try to develop.
right. So simply make it simple, make it quick. If you don't want to invest loads of time, because otherwise it's really not fair. And if I've got a choice between going working for Tim Sackett PLC or going to the next business, and the hourly rates are pretty much the same, well, why would I go and work there?
Hmm.
And if I've got another two or three jobs, what actually is my interest in that? So it's really nuanced, and I think making it simple but making it clear what you want and how you're going to measure it is really, really important, in the same way that it is in salaried or executive positions. Just be really clear up front.
Yeah. So I'm going to get you out with this question, and go back to that measurement side. And is there anything on the hourly hiring side that you use, or that you've used in the past, or that you look at to I guess measure the health of hourly hiring within the organization?
Yeah, so I mean, one of the biggest challenges that we used to have was around that Christmas seasonal period, because you need to ramp up and then you'd need to drop out at the
Hmm.
other end. And managing the kind of volume and the quality of volume and the quality during that period was always one of the biggest challenges. And so there's a certain base level of analytic around just, are we filling the hours that we need to do? Are we meeting the resource plan?
Hmm.
But the tension to that is, we don't just want to meet the resource plan. We want to meet the resource plan with really quality people.
Hmm.
And so we used to have a resourcing process that we'd make sure that everybody went through, because ultimately you wanted to make sure that someone who was in a shop in the north of the UK went through the same quality check as someone in the south.
Hmm.
And so following that kind of standard process and knowing that you had to score the same broadly wherever you were was one of the things that was really quite important to us, because otherwise you're just looking at the hours and you're just looking at kind of like how full's the bucket,
Hmm.
not actually what the bucket's full of. And that
I
was kind of quite
I do think that too few organizations are using assessments effectively, right? In that manner, and many times we got into this thing where you're saying, oh well, it's a personality assessment. We're looking for someone who's good at customer service,
yeah.
and those can be gamed a little bit. For us, when I was at Applebee's, there was two things. One was just baseline intelligence. We found the more intelligent you were, the quicker you learned, the quicker you understood.
Yep.
It didn't mean you were necessarily going to be a great worker, but there was a higher chance. And then speed of processing was a huge one, like how fast you could actually process the assessment that we took. I mean, we knew the assessment might take an hourly worker 15 minutes to take on average, and
Yep.
we got to a baseline where the people who took it like under 8 minutes had significantly higher performance, because
Yeah.
they were able to
Yeah.
process quicker. And
Yeah.
knowing in a fast-paced environment, customers coming asking for things, you're getting pulled 100 directions as an hourly worker with really minimal training, right?
Yep.
And so, but you had to believe in the assessment. Like again, same thing. Like, hey, if someone doesn't score at whatever level you determine it's going to be, we're just not going to take chances anymore. Which then, then you just have to fill the funnel with more people, and you have to go through all of that, which from an interaction standpoint became critical. But I agree with you. I think that assessment side just is underutilized right now.
Yeah. I mean, on top of that, we used to get people into the stores to do part of the assessment, and actually they'd do a bit of the work
Yeah.
at the time, just because often a number of them would say, actually, this isn't for me, and it's much better that someone self-selects before they start rather than after they start. So actually just getting them in that environment as well, assessing them in that environment and being able to see how they work was a really great way of just being able to say, actually, it works for both parties,
Hmm.
and that's what you want.
And I love the mini work sample piece too, because just the aspect of getting them to show up and do that usually will tell you as well that they have some
Yeah.
actual some passion, some interest, around being able to come to work for your organization.
Yeah. So young job seekers, I mean, one of the things I tell them is go in, Go into the place you want a job. Don't just send something. Just go and see them, because actually just having that the confidence to go in and
Yeah.
ask actually makes a hell of a difference.
No. Well, cool. Well, Neil, thank you so much for coming on the pod. I really appreciate you taking the time and coming all the way through Skype from the UK. I know that was a difficult challenge. No. and
Absolutely.
Neil, tell everybody how they can find you.
So my blog is Change Effect, which is www.change-effect.com. I'm on Twitter at Neil Morrison.
So make sure you check him out. Neil is so awesome and shares great content, develops great content, and he'll actually will respond and talk back to you if you have questions. And just a brilliant guy. Thanks for SmashFly.com for letting us do this, and also of course the people at Fistful of Talent. We'll see you next time. Check us out.